and Hotbid the sickest. And here it is. The first game has begun, and already, Chill, I think the nerd senses are tingling a little bit on all the viewers out there, the tens and thousands who tuned in this fine Sunday morning, because it is a cross-map position on Metalopolis. In the south end, we have mouz.ThorZaIN spawning as the Blue Terran. Up in the Northlands, we have Dignitas.NaNiwa spawning as the Red Protoss.
Yeah, Dave, I say time and time again, it takes me a little bit to get going, but I am ridiculously excited for this finals. It's going to be unbelievable, and I just want to point to everyone, once again, I know we've really been pushing this, but we've delayed the raffle to give people one last chance to get over there. TeamLiquid.net/raffle. You can get over to Korea, you can meet Artosis, Tasteless, possibly Rekrul if you're lucky. You can learn such amazing phrases such as Chemike Nora, and you'll just have an incredible time. TeamLiquid.net raffle. Go and sign up.
Indeed, I can't wait to find out the translation of that on the TeamLiquid.net forums. So again, if you have any sort of artistic Photoshop skills, feel free to make up your own translation and create a funny photo. So we do see Dignitas.NaNiwa sending that first probe down, marching triumphantly to the bottom. And this is the updated version of this map. On many versions of Metalopolis, you can spawn in close positions. Nothing like that possible on this current particular map. We do see it looks like ThorZaIN, also sending his worker out. But look at this. ThorZaIN's going to be stopping by that watchtower first, Chill. Definitely does not want any of that ever so occasional Naniwa cheese cropping up.
You know, when you get into a grand finals of a match where $15,000 are on the line and it's a best of 7, endurance comes into play as well as the mental aspect. You know, gaming your opponent, switching it up. So I'm not surprised to see here in Game 1 on a standard map like Metalopolis, we're seeing very, very standard openings thus far. That's not to say it's going to continue forever, but you really want to iron out those nerves, play your build that you know, and that's what we're seeing here. Gate, Core, Gas out of NaNiwa, and ThorZaIN going just barracks with the Tech Lab add-on after a Marine, as well as getting his refinery. So very standard, as the SCV is going to roll into the main base of NaNiwa. ThorZaIN is going to see exactly what's up. He's going to spot the lack of a second geyser, going to check the energy on that Nexus, and then return back to business as usual.
Now, let's discuss a little bit about these players' overall styles that we've been seeing. In Terran vs. Protoss, we've seen ThorZaIN go for a very interesting, fast upgrade style. Players, for a brief period of time, almost thought that Marine Marauder was suddenly not a viable way to play against Protoss due to the fact that, oh my god,
nice.
ThorZaIN pulling off everything, even the mule that doesn't even have an attack ability in this game, bringing that off to do a little bit of the hurting. But, you know, players for a time considered that, you know, wow, maybe the upgrades for Protoss are so good that Marine Marauder is no longer viable against Protoss. But we've seen ThorZaIN sort of flip that back around, begin getting a lot of upgrades early, and it turns out Protoss struggles quite a bit with that. And on the reverse side, we've seen NaNiwa do some amazing timing pushes with the Colossus, getting 2 with a fast thermal lance very, very quickly. And that always excites me, Chill, because we're seeing players drift away from this sort of composition style, like, oh my gosh, I have a lot of Colossus, therefore that's my build, done. And it's moved a little bit more towards what is the timing of the units I'm getting, and that is what makes NaNiwa so strong.
Yeah, absolutely. We can see the timing that ThorZaIN has timed out for this build. He's got that starport building immediately when he had 100 gas. Now mining off two refineries in his main base. So this may be a Banshee rush. Now adding on a Tech Lab to his factory. He's got that bunker up. And important to note here that ThorZaIN importantly killed that scouting probe. So Dignitas.NaNiwa is not aware of that factory coming up. We can see he's responded with a fast expansion. And a fairly safe version of this fast expansion, getting the Zealot Stalker and Sentry, which combats any sort of rush. He's got his probe by the easternmost Zelnaga watchtower, and also getting that robotics. So this isn't some sort of blind expansion into 4-gate, it's a blind expansion into 2-gate into Robo, which would be safe against any sort of Cloak Banshee rush.
We're already seeing NaNiwa be very, very muscular in that early composition, getting those early stalkers. If you want to be cutesy and tech and maybe try to play all ultra defensively, the trick is to get a lot of zealots and sentries, but it looks like NaNiwa going for the variety unit, the stalker, the versatile unit for Protoss early on, and being extremely safe. Look at how fast that robotics bay is, already getting the third gas at his expansion, and again, NaNiwa is quite well known for doing this very clever 2 Colossus timing with a lot of his builds. Now, if we take a look over at ThorZaIN may very well be going for one of those classic one base hyper aggressive pushes that can transition very easily into an all-in. And look at that food count already, Chill. 49 to 54, ThorZaIN a little bit ahead, but not for long, as we will see a Colossus soon pop out.
Yeah, I think this game is unfolding very clearly here to the observers and to the stream watchers. ThorZaIN going for a one-base timing here, getting the tanks out, getting the Banshees. I'm actually surprised that he's going to harass with this Banshee and kind of show his hand a little bit, but does not have the cloak, going to use it to take out a few probes. NaNiwa is going to be able to drive that out. And the important thing to notice here is that the second observer is coming out for NaNiwa before getting a Colossus. So if ThorZaIN hits that crisp timing where he gets out with 3 Banshees and is able to punish NaNiwa for going for this very fast Colossus, he may be able to end the game outright. It's a very tense moment here.
Absolutely, that's such a good point. The fact that, that second observer is going to be a big effect on NaNiwa's play, and really, ThorZaIN is the one who's being very clever against his opponent by not getting cloak. By seeing any Banshee at all, right. Protoss says, gosh, well now I have to get that observer just to account for the possibility that he gets that cloak. And what is ThorZaIN doing in the meantime with all that extra gas? Well, he's getting extra tanks earlier. He's getting extra Banshees earlier. Very smart play, but look at this, Chill. There's a probe moving down, and the probe gets killed, but the tank was revealed. So, if NaNiwa was looking closely enough, he will know that this push is coming.
And here come all the SCVs. Important to note here, ThorZaIN does have siege mode, so this isn't an all-in where he's going to rush up and try to use just the high DPS of the tank. He's actually able to slow push, and the first Colossus is out, but the extended thermal lance is not complete. That means tanks are going to have the advantage, and not a lot of beefy gateway units here for NaNiwa. Is he aware that this is coming? He's trying to get a second Colossus. Thermal lance at just about 50%, and here comes the army for ThorZaIN crashing towards NaNiwa.
NaNiwa has almost nothing right now. He's going to have to use some amazing Colossus micro, but ThorZaIN advancing forward. NaNiwa is pushed all the way back against his expansion. There's the tank sieging up. Amazing positioning by ThorZaIN, keeping that nice distance from the ramp. And there we see the Banshees trying to move forward, trying to pick off some of those sentries. No units lost yet. We do see NaNiwa trying to get into a good position. He's nearly done with that range, but it still is not yet quite finished. NaNiwa is going to be extremely patient. There are the Banshees already picking away at that natural expansion nexus. A second Colossus has popped out. NaNiwa being very careful, holding back. No player has done any commitment yet. NaNiwa might even sack this expo.
Right. NaNiwa has importantly been supply blocked, and it took him a long time to realize that. Now putting up 4 pylons, extended thermal lance, chrono boosted out, and now complete. The nexus goes down. A lot of Banshees here able to deal so much damage to the stalkers. NaNiwa has to be so careful and keep these Colossi alive. Fortunately, NaNiwa has not lost his probe, so he's still in this, using the Colossi to isolate that tank, and force fields going up, isolating the units. Banshees are going to be the huge problem here for NaNiwa. If he can take those out and then use the Colossi to take down the rest of the units, he may have a chance to come back in this match.
NaNiwa finally finishes those pylons, is unsupply blocked, but an amazing sacrifice of that nexus. Turns out it may very well be the correct play. NaNiwa would likely be wise to have those probes stop doing the long-distance mining, having to throw down yet more pylons. Amazingly, NaNiwa still ahead in the food count. All those workers that ThorZaIN has there, a full 12 workers by that expansion. That's very clever response by NaNiwa to see that number of SCVs and say, well, that's fine, I can sack my expo. My one base is going to be way more saturated than yours, so NaNiwa may very well amass a reasonably sized army.
Yeah. ThorZaIN has to be careful here. Looking back in the main base, he's got nothing to follow this up. No expansion coming down. He's got his SCV sitting at his natural, so he may be looking for that. Dancing back and forth with the Vikings, trying to take pot shots at the Colossi. One Colossi way down, now trying to snipe observers, it looks like. Or he's just trying to get a vision into the main base as he drops a scan. NaNiwa continuing to warp in units. 122 supplied to 98. And here he goes, moving forward with the Zealots, trying to take this out. The SCV is able to repair everything. The Colossi trying to take them down. 3 Colossi still alive, which are the huge damage dealers. But the Banshee's still fully alive. And looks like ThorZaIN has done it, fully repulsing back NaNiwa. And I believe ThorZaIN is going to be able to isolate these units and take game number 1.
Well, looks like a couple more Stalkers warping in at the last second. Looks like he will be able to take out one of the Banshees. A second one may go down in a moment, but no, amazing micro right there by ThorZaIN. NaNiwa having to pull back his only remaining Colossus, and that Colossus falls. One more Colossus does pop up. NaNiwa has those 4 gateways, but is committed to warping in only Stalkers at this point. In the unit counting station, we see that there are only 6 Marines alive right now, and most of them are still making their way over. We do see that those extra Stalkers do manage to pick out a Banshee, do not manage to pull off the second one. And this is an insanely intense game. 28 SCVs for ThorZaIN, 48 for NaNiwa. Great little snipe there by NaNiwa. Incredible decision making by NaNiwa to still be alive.
This game is not over, Day. Actually, NaNiwa microing nicely. If he can kill these air units, then he can use the Colossus from the high ground, take down these tanks, and then break out. ThorZaIN doesn't have a huge amount of production potential back at his main base. His natural just now finishing upgrading to an orbital command. NaNiwa looks like he's going to make a ton of units, mine out his main base, and look for one timing to completely break this. ThorZaIN forced to drop a mule actually to repair. NaNiwa still using that Colossus. Oh, the shield's gone on the Colossus. NaNiwa pulling his Stalkers. It's just such a difficult position to get out of here. NaNiwa has a chance, but it has to be very, very crisp play for him to break out of this very strong contain that ThorZaIN's put him in.
But look at ThorZaIN's main, almost completely mined out of minerals in the main. Now, what that means is that even though ThorZaIN has an expansion up, he still is functionally on one base and will still only have those 3 unit-producing structures. NaNiwa in an equally awkward situation, and look at this, Chill pulling off all those probes, and all of them are hotkeyed as 7. Weirdly enough, both these players hotkeying workers on 7. That is a very Swedish thing, I suppose. But it looks like NaNiwa is getting in the position to do a huge bust, but ThorZaIN I really think some of the best positioning outside the front of that base that we have seen yet. That is just phenomenal placement of those tanks, being able to pick off everything coming down the ramp. And here comes the big push. NaNiwa leading with that Immortal. It's beginning to take some damage, but some very smart retarget firing by ThorZaIN. All the probes move in, but they are at the back. One Colossus does fall. And NaNiwa, oh my goodness, might be able to break through this. The probes at the front working away at that one remaining bunker. And ThorZaIN with the unload manages to pull them out in time. And oh my god, Chill, NaNiwa breaks the contain.
He breaks it. Looking back at the main base of ThorZaIN, there's not a lot of units. He's got the tank sitting there, reinforcements coming in. NaNiwa forced to pull back as ThorZaIN is sieged up with just a small amount of units, but he's got to get those out there. NaNiwa would be good to bring this Colossus on the high ground, try to snipe that up. A scan going down for ThorZaIN. He really wants to be aware, and he actually takes out the Observer as well. That's 2 mules that ThorZaIN has just sacrificed, but he's got his natural completely up. Now transitioning into infantry, he's made a second barracks at his natural, making 2 more. And if he gets that production up, I don't think NaNiwa is going to be able to come back. NaNiwa doesn't have expanding on his mind, just making a ton of units and looking for this big counterattack.
I cannot believe that NaNiwa held that contain for as long as he did and now has broken it, advancing forward. NaNiwa knows that this is a critical time. He sees those extra barracks getting constructed at the front, does not want those to finish up. ThorZaIN now on the defensive, but NaNiwa absolutely needs... Oh my gosh, look at the probe train. NaNiwa is committing to a reverse all-in. Apparently NaNiwa realizes that he is so far behind that it is not worth it to try to retake that expansion and to try to slowly work his way back ahead. He is going to be bringing all of those probes in, and ThorZaIN trying to construct those bunkers in time, but may not be prepared for this gigantic amount of probes.
Yeah, ThorZaIN has just completed those 2 barracks, but not getting any production out of them. Zealot leading to eat the tank fire. Colossus trying to rain down as the probes move in. This is it. This is all in for NaNiwa. SCV's pulled off the line to try to repair those mechanical units. Vikings actually being landed, and it looks like ThorZaIN is going to hold. GG, game 1 going to mouz.ThorZaIN.
Welcome to the finals. Oh my goodness. Every single Protoss has had that obnoxious Marine tank Banshee push win every single time in a complete one-sided fashion, but NaNiwa showing that you can hold on with amazing decision-making. A couple of micro rearrangements would have shifted that win in NaNiwa's favor, but we see ThorZaIN narrowly inching his way into winning game number 1 on Metalopolis. I couldn't have asked for a better first game. NaNiwa almost completely mining out his main. ThorZaIN completely mining out his main as he was finishing up that contain. Just absolutely phenomenal play by both players. And per usual, we see that ThorZaIN is the one coming with the incredible build orders.
Right, ThorZaIN is the king of preparation, and he's really got it done there, just punishing NaNiwa for that fast expansion. I'm always really impressed, Dave, with the player who doesn't play middle of the road. He leans one way or the other, either retreating often, playing defensively. So I'm really impressed by ThorZaIN not expanding. When that contain started to work, he didn't just drop a command center and say, okay, I'm happy with this, I'm going to expand and take my little economic lead into the mid game. He continued to rally units into that natural of NaNiwa well until his main was mined out. And that was just an incredible decision. And on the flip side of things, NaNiwa actually just giving up the Nexus at his natural. Not many players would have been able to make that decision, and it was the correct one. We can see looking back, able to break out and punish ThorZaIN and try to do that counterattack. Very, very well thought out counters by each player there.
Yeah, and I love that comment, Shill. The fact that ThorZaIN really devoted himself to that build order style that he was doing. A big mistake that it's so easy to make is to have one of these tweener builds where it's kind of okay against everything. You know, you kind of attack here, but then you're kind of trying to expand too. You saw ThorZaIN know exactly what the point of his build was and exactly how he wanted to get that huge advantage in the early game. And what happened? ThorZaIN devoted everything to that early push and only just barely won. That really shows why it is so important to have a focused build where you drill everything into exactly one purpose. So let's see if ThorZaIN is going to have an equally awesomely prepared build on this next map, TSL3 GSL Crevasse.